Good morning, Knicks Nation. Today is Thursday. It's actually the first day of July 2021. I hope you're healthy. I hope you're COVID free and your family and your household is also healthy. I hope also that all your needs are being met in terms of food, shelter, clothing, and good health. Blessings upon those that work in the healthcare field seeking to save lives and promote health and healing. Blessings also upon those that pick up garbage for us and do that dirty work to keep our places clean. Blessings upon those that make our lives more easy and convenient by making deliveries for us, especially of food and things that we need, sustenance. Double blessings on those trying to deliver boys and girls and men and women and children from human trafficking and sex trade and sex slavery operations, and curses on those that support this disgusting industry upon innocence. Also, double blessings on those working on behalf of the homeless. 600,000 people now in the United States that don't have a roof over their head, men, women, children, families, as well as veterans. Blessings upon them and the millions around the world also, and the people themselves, for theirs is the kingdom. A lot going on in Knicks Nation. A lot going on in Knicks Nation. I find that the off season is even more busy than the season. As crazy as that sounds. Um, so I did not want to address this. And the reason I did not, and and I'm not saying it makes me better or worse than anybody. It's just who I am and what I am and how I am. And everybody has their ways, right? I love the New York Knicks. I am a fan of the New York Knicks. I'm always going to be rooting for the New York Knicks and pulling for them to win every single game, regardless of how good or bad the team is. I'm from New York. I grew up, watching the Knicks from when I was 8 or 9 years old, and so it's just part of part of my life, the New York Knicks. So um, I'm very serious about my care for the Knicks in terms of wanting to see them get better. Okay, wanting to see them get better. And over the course of time, from my own experience in basketball, I've learned and I've picked up, as most of you probably have, different things about the game and in terms of what I believe it takes to build a winner. And the franchises, again, I mentioned on many times that I admire because of how they have built their winners. San Antonio Spurs being number one because the organization has just been run so tightly. Most of the last 20 years, no matter what kind of team they are, they're always in playoff contention. No matter what kind of players they draft, they always fit in their system. And they have a long-term sustainable organization and winning culture. Same with the Miami Heat. Since Pat Riley went there, since he left the Knicks and went there, they have been on the same trajectory, a sustainable long-term winning. No matter who's there, no matter what they do, they always have a culture. They have a defensive first mentality, and they always are in a winning situation, or at least close to it, or pushing for it. Okay, always. And so, after watching those type of organizations, I thought to myself, I would like our Knicks to be that way, right? I'd like us to have a long-term sustainable culture. I'd like us to have a front office that knows what they're doing and in tune with the coaching staff, and the coaching staff have a system in place that when players come to New York, they know what's expected of them and they fit in that system. But for the New York Knicks, as we know, that has not been the case. It has not been the case really ever in the Knicks history. But the closest we came to that was when Red Holzman was coaching the Knicks. And it seemed like the front office put stuff together properly. They drafted Walt Frazier. They drafted Willis Reed. They drafted Dean Meminger, right? They drafted Cazzie Russell. They had Walt Bellamy also, who they traded when they got Willis Reed. And then they added some trades. They added Jerry Lucas. They added Dave DeBusschere. They drafted a gangly dude out of Idaho named Phil Jackson. And that team was put together in such a way. They drafted Dollar Bill Bradley, and it was put together in such a way that they won 2 championships, right? And they won it based on the core of the players they developed and drafted. The first championship, Frazier was, he was the star, right? And then you had Willis Reed, who they drafted out of Grambling. But then the second championship, they went and got a past his prime Earl Monroe. He was past his prime at that time, but he was still the man. and they won the second championship. And so I didn't know then what I know now, obviously, but man, I just wanted the Knicks to keep winning. But ever since then, we've been on all these roller coasters. Now, finally, this past season, I wasn't sure what was going to happen with Leon Rose. I had heard, of course, that other teams, namely the Lakers and the Warriors, had guys that were formerly agents become front office people, right? And so I wasn't sure what to expect of that. I mean, it were power brokers, obviously, and they knew the players, obviously, but in terms of making right decisions, in terms of making decisions for a long-term sustainable winner, I didn't know. But then Leon proved itself last year. Just in terms of the draft, in terms of free agency, he was playing multiple level chess. The Knicks had never had a president of basketball operations like that. Well, close. They had Donnie Walsh at one point, and Donnie Walsh is one of those cats. But the owner, James Dolan, was interfering with Donnie Walsh trying to do his job and messed us up. And that was another problem we knew with Mr. Dolan. But then I did notice that Mr. Dolan had changed his ways. This was a long time. Actually, if you really are a Knicks fan and you really follow these things closely, you notice he changed his ways with Phil Jackson. He figured he would just throw a boatload of money at Phil Jackson and then step out the way and let Phil Jackson do his championship magic. Well, we know how that turned out. But I noticed at that time that Mr. Dolan was trying to back up off the operations and let somebody that he thought was a pro at it handle it. Of course, he had to fire Phil Jackson because Phil Jackson was the problem with Phil Jackson, he was trying to coach from the president's box. You cannot coach from the president's box. Just like we needed Mr. Dolan to let the president of operations do his job, the president of the operations got to hire the coaches and let them do their job, right? Phil didn't do that. He was interfering, and that messed everything up. Then enters Leon Rose. And he brings in a crew. Brings in Walt Perrin from Utah with Johnny Bryant. Another very long-term sustainable winner. They never won a championship, but as far as long-term sustenance of a winning culture, Utah is there. Been there 25 years at least. Okay? Since Karl Malone and John Stockton and going forward, these guys are always in the hunt. So he brings these two guys there who are, Johnny Bryant, a young, brilliant basketball mind, and then Walt Perrin, a scout on the level of a great scout, knowing how to pick on that Jerry West level, know how to pick players from any group of players you give him. He brings in those two guys. He hires Tom Thibodeau. He brings in a guy from Kentucky, Kenny Payne. He brings in a guy that got shafted by the Knicks, and Mike Woodson. I say shafted because they should let him do his job. But again, when Phil came, everything changed. Brings this crew in. I start to feel confident. People were talking about the Knicks needed talent, but look, the first talent any sustainable winning organization needs is front office and coaching. And I realized the Knicks had that. And I thought the MVP of the Knicks was going to be Tom Thibodeau. And as it turns out, I think I was right. So we started the process of building a long-term sustainable winner. What we had done right, which is one of the few things we had done right, we drafted good in the last 5 years. We drafted very well. We got Mitchell Robinson. We got R.J. Barrett. We drafted some young, good prospects. Okay, I felt like we did a good thing. I mean, even though Frank Ntilikina, I think we would agree, probably drafted too high at 8. It wasn't his fault. He was drafted at 8 and mishandled. That was a good pick. I thought that if they handled him right, and they still got a chance to do that, I don't know what's going to happen, but Frank is now obviously going to be a wing, a 3-and-D wing. And he developed into that. But that being aside, the Knicks drafted well over the last few seasons. So now we're in the process of building a long-term sustainable winner. Now, I couple that with the history that the Knicks have, and this is consistent. If you could go back, and if you're a Knicks fan, you would know this, right? I mean, every single summer, not without one exception, every single summer, there's always rumors from the New York press, the media, that some superstars or great superstars or a group of superstars are coming to the Knicks. Like I said, it's been going on since the 70s. Every summer. I mean, we had it back in the day, like I said, I mentioned, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was coming to the Knicks. Dr. J was coming to the Knicks. He was on the Nets in Long Island. Then they sold him Philly. And every summer, he's going to leave Philly and come to the Knicks. Every year. Then recently, you're talking about LeBron. And now this year is no different. You're talking about, they're mentioning, the media is mentioning. I want to make that clear. The media is mentioning Damian Lillard, Bradley Beal, and now Donovan Mitchell. Now, all three of these guys are top 15 players in the NBA. And the cost of getting them is going to be all of our young players, or pretty much most of our young players and all of our draft picks. For the point of us pairing one of those guys with basically you're talking about Mitchell Robinson and Julius Randle in hopes of competing for a championship right away. And I'm going to sound crazy, but I think anybody believing this is on crack. The Knicks are not on crack anymore. We're trying to build a long-term, sustainable winner. We got a rising star in RJ Barrett. Whether you New York Knicks, some of you on Knick Nation stupid enough to not think that or not, that's your business. We got a rising star in RJ Barrett. And he's just turning 21 now. Okay, nowhere near his prime. We got 4 or 5 years before we see the prime of RJ Barrett. He is one of these players that's going to keep getting better. We have a rising star in Mitchell Robinson, who we got in the second round. Okay? We have now a guy that's established himself as a star, although he be a number 2 option, in Julius Randle. The pieces are coming together. And now one thing that previous regime did right, we got to give them their props. They put us in this position with all this cap space we got. And Steve Mills said, I don't know if y'all remember, there was a press conference they had the year they traded to KP. It was before the season started. Him and Scott Perry would come out and do a media thing, if y'all remember. And Steve Mills promised us, he said, I'm not going to trade any first round picks for anybody. And you know why he had to make such a thing? Why it was a big deal, as we know as Knicks fans? Because the Knicks were dealing, Isaiah Thomas was throwing away first round picks like candy for garbage players. Okay? And Glenn Gumrow, the same thing. So he said, first thing he said, we're not trading a first round pick, which is why we have right now 2 picks in the first round and 2 picks in the second round. Okay? And we're at a point where we're growing, where we realize we don't even need all 4 of these picks, because we got players, that young players coming along. We got guys here. We got guys that's going to come in free agency, real serious guys. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. So we're on an upward trajectory to build a long-term sustainable winner. If RJ, which I believe he's going to, takes another step this season, Mitchell Robinson stays healthy, Julius even just duplicates last year, if he could just do that, and we have some young pieces in IQ, and we still trying to see what we got with Kevin Knox. Maybe we don't have anything, but we still got something to see there. And then there's Frank. We're looking at, and then of course last year's prize pick was Obi Toppin, who I think has got star potential and definitely got the talent. We just need to get him on the court. Okay, so we're in position where we can not just compete next year. We can compete for the next 10 years, y'all. That's what we're talking about. You got to think longer term, y'all. Not just next year or the year after with a 31-year-old dude. What's going to happen after that? Especially if you give away all your picks for such a dude. You're not getting no more picks. So, the talk about Bradley Beal, Damian Lillard, Donovan Mitchell. First of all, let's go one at a time. Bradley Beal. I'm here in D.C. The cat continually says he wants to retire in D.C. He just signed a $200 million deal. He doesn't want to leave. Okay, he wants to stay in DC. He likes it here. Now, if he changes his mind, he changes his mind. But we can't afford him. Not where we at right now. Damian Lillard. What? Because Chauncey Billups was accused of rape 25 years ago? All of a sudden, Damian Lillard wants to leave Portland? What? I mean, that's the logic. What are people thinking about? And they just hired Chauncey Billups. What you think they're hiring him for? They ain't hiring him for CJ McCollum. And you don't think they talked to Dame about that before they hired him? Come on, y'all. And now, Dwayne Wade is a part owner of the Utah Jazz, and Brian Windhorst, y'all, is on the verge of becoming Mark Berman. Somebody asked me what I thought about him. His whole career was built on reporting on LeBron James during LeBron's career. That's all he was focusing on, whatever LeBron was doing, whatever his decisions was, and that's why he had any relevance, in my view. Him come out talking about Dwayne Wade is concerned that Donovan Mitchell want to leave. I mean, that sounds like Mark Berman. Like you don't know if it's true or not, or if it's just fodder to get attention. Then, of course, since Mitchell has roots in the New York area, all of a sudden now, New York Knicks, Mitchell to the Knicks. Come on, y'all. Come on, man. No. Now, let's talk about some realistic options. Okay? Let's be real. Forget this pie in the sky on the crack pipe stuff, okay? Let's look at the real deal. So, look, we talked about Devontae Graham. We talked about Colin Sexton, right? I'm going to talk about a couple of other players right now, but these guys that I just mentioned, either they don't cost us nothing but money, or they might cost us a draft, a number one, maybe the two Dallas number ones, and maybe a Frank or a Knox. Now, compare that to giving away RJ, IQ, Obi, and all your picks. Seriously? Anyway, I talked about those two guys. Now, some of y'all with the Texan thing, some of y'all not. But at least, you'll understand he's not going to cost what Damian Lillard going to cost. At least we have all our team. Now, let's talk about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Look, I have respect for Sam Presti. That guy's done a terrific job in Oklahoma City, middle of nowhere. And he's been building teams there for a minute. That's another organization that's been running pretty good. So they had all of these stars. They drafted 3 MVPs. They drafted James Harden. They drafted Russell Westbrook. They drafted Kevin Durant. Now that's some drafting right there. They drafted 3 MVPs. Okay. So the guy know what he's doing. All right. So he's trying to now rebuild. Now, I don't know. Right now, it's a mess because they got a gazillion picks, and their whole team everybody now is just babies right now, right? So I don't know what, it's like a clay that you don't know what it's going to become. It's got to be sculpted, and it's all out of shape right now. So I don't know what he's doing, but he got 1 million guards. Theo Maledon, you remember him? He's pretty good. He's there. He's only 20, and he's really good, actually, right? We talked about him last year. Theo Maledon is good. Then they got, of course, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, right? And then, of course, they got Dort. They got a bunch of people that's pretty good, right? And then now they got 3 draft picks in the first round, 16, 16, and 18. At 6, pretty much universally, everybody believing, unless somebody takes him before them, that they're going to take Scotty Barnes out of Florida State, which is a great pick for them, okay? But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, look, let's think about his situation. He was drafted by the Clippers. He was starting point guard for the Clippers, which was a playoff team, right? In order to get Paul George, they traded him to Oklahoma City. And of course, he's been in the basement. He can't be happy about that. He's a Canadian, right? So now, Wojnarowski said that the Knicks going to be big game hunting, right? This off season, and that there's disgruntled stars that may come to the Knicks, or that the Knicks will be interested in talking to disgruntled stars. And the 3 guys I mentioned earlier, everybody puts them in there because they're the biggest stars. But Shai Gilgeous, I would not be surprised if he was disgruntled. I mean, he would have a reason to be. He's from He came from a Clipper organization that was pushing for the playoffs to Oklahoma City, where Billy Donovan left them. And now they got a whole bunch of kids his age or younger, and he's young, you know. And the thing is about him, he was eligible for an extension, $158 million last year, and he ain't signed the extension. That's always a sign. We talked about that with Levine, right? That's always a sign. Now, Levine's situation, Levine waiting to see if they can build around him. And I'm telling you right now, speaking on Levine just real quick, if the Chicago Bulls make the playoffs next year, Levine's a lock to stay there. He's going to stay there. Okay. So he's fading away. It was 50-50, but I think it's getting, less than that now because of that. Now, if they don't make the playoffs, they stink again next year, them odds come back. Okay. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander did not sign his extension, quiet as kept. And he's going to be a restricted free agent next season, at the end of this coming season. And if he ain't signed no extension, he might just take the qualifying offer, right? And then go become an unrestricted free agent. So he might be that disgruntled guy, although I don't know what Sam Presti would want from us for him. But you got to figure it's going to be, I'll put it this way. I would give them the 2 Dallas picks, the one this year and the one in 2023. And I will throw in a young player. Now I don't know who that's going to be. I think they would want more than Frank Ntilikina for SGA. So I'm thinking you might have to look at Obi. You might have to look at Obi on that as well. So I don't know, but we're going to see, right? But either way, that's much cheaper than any other these bigger alternatives people are trying to throw around. So let's just say worst case scenario, we gave them the first rounder from Dallas this year, which is like 21, the first rounder from Dallas in 2023. Maybe we throw in a second rounder for next year, right? And then we send them Obi and Frank. Let's say we did that. Or we send them Kevin Knox and Obi, or Kevin Knox and Frank, right? We still got IQ. We still got RJ. We still got a first rounder and a second rounder this year. We still got Randall. We still got Mitchell Robinson. We still got Derrick Rose. You see what I'm saying? Now we continuing our trajectory. And we would have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as our starting point guard. Okay, that's worth looking into, right? I don't know what's going to happen because he's under contract, but that's worth looking into. Okay, that's one. Talked about already Devontae Graham, because Devontae Graham is going to be restricted this year. But then I didn't think that if I am the Charlotte Hornets, who would I rather keep? Scary Terry or Devontae, right? Now, I love Scary Terry. And of course, I think he's a better player than Devontae. But they both good now. But Scary Terry is on the last year. He's expiring. He's on the last year of a $56 million deal. 3-year, 56 he signed with them, right? And so this is the last year of that deal. He's going to be looking for some more money. You got to pay LaMelo at some point. Devontae's coming off of $1.6, $1.8 million. Even you throw 12 at him and you trade Terry. I would not mind. We talked about Scary Terry last year, and I liked Scary. Scary Terry's a 40% shooter from 3. Scary Terry has shown us when Kyrie Irving had one of his many playoff injuries, and he took over for the Celtics, they were pushing for the ECF that year, if you recall. Scary Terry showed out, and he's even better now. He done dropped 40 a couple of times this past season. He plays really good defense. If we could get Scary Terry, and he's an expiring, we could just take up his contract. Boom. Send them some draft picks. Boom. And they ain't even got to be a whole bunch of number ones or anything either. Send them one number 1, one number 2. Okay, for Scary Terry. Send him this guy from Argentina you guys are tripping about, Vildosa or whatever. Send him, right? And we can have Scary Terry as our starting point guard, and we still have plenty of money. See, he's in the last year of his deal, so it's a show me year. Ooh, he's going to be ready to play. And then get us another wing. We can go get us another wing. Again, we talked about Oubre. I know some of y'all don't like Oubre, but we talked about Norman Powell, who's championship pedigree. We talked about DeMar DeRozan. This all becomes available to us with our present team. And we could still get a young point guard if we wanted somebody going forward. and we can get a young wing or another wing. We can get a Duarte or a Trey Murphy the third. You get one of those two, and you could name your point guard. You could get, there's a million point guards in this draft. That's good, right? I mean, you got a lot. I mean, everybody got their favorites. Some people like Sharif Cooper, got Jared Butler, you got Davion Mitchell, you got Boak Knight, you got a whole bunch of guys in this draft. You really almost can't go wrong to pick a bad guard in this draft. There's so many good ones. Ayu Dosunmu, Trey Mann. You got a whole bunch of people you could pick. So that's what I'm saying. I would rather that. You put Scary Terry in that lineup and you add DeMar DeRozan or you add Norman Powell and you put RJ Mitchell, Robinson, and Randall out there. And now you starting with IQ and D Rose coming off the bench with Obi Toppin. Right? And you still got Taj Gibson. And you might get a backup center. I mean, I'm assuming Nerlens Noel is going to be gone. I'm assuming he ain't playing for no daggone $6 million this year. No, he's going to get some more money. But if he leaves, if he stays, we got him. If he leaves, Kelly Olynyk, you got options. You got options. So I like that. We come back with the same strong bench that we had last year, only this time, y'all know and I know. And, bless Elfrid Payton, man. I mean, he puts his, he tried. The guy's an NBA player. But honestly, I think we all agree there were many times last year offensively we were playing 5-on-4, right? Or 4-on-5 with him. And we still won 41 games. We won 41 games like that. Okay? You put a point guard, Terry Rozier, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, or Colin Sexton. You put any of them cats out there, and then you give us a wing that could shoot, a Norman Powell. What? Ooh, yo, that's what I'm talking about. That's real. Terry Rozier can be gotten. I'm not so sure Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I can't believe Sam Presti would be that stupid to let him go. I really don't. See, some of y'all say, well, nobody's giving away Colin Sexton. Cleveland is stupid, yo. I'm just telling you. Look, listen to this, man. LeBron James tells you I'm leaving, right? Or he's leaving after they won the championship. He's leaving. Okay? And so you're the GM. LeBron's leaving. So what do? You got a guy that you put as the number 2 or 3 option to LeBron. And what do? You sign that guy to $120 million. A guy that I don't think Kevin Love has ever played a full season. I don't think he has. And you sign him to $120 million when you're in rebuild mode? And then you draft a point guard, Colin Sexton, who averages 20 for you in his first season. Okay, or 18, whatever it was. Tack dog. What do? You go back and draft another guy that's like 6'1" the next year? I'm trying to tell y'all, these guys ain't that smart. Now, somebody trying to get some sense because they drafted Okoro. And Okoro playing some defense. I think, and they went and traded for Jared Allen. It looks to me that they're trying to add defense to their team. But here, this year with the 3rd overall pick, they're going to get a Jalen Green. They're going to get an Evan Mobley. They're going to get, like, put it this way. There's Cade, Evan Mobley, Jalen Green, and there's Suggs, right? Cleveland's going to get one of them guys. Okay? And you take any one of those guys, and they got to do something with one of these 2 point guards. Sexton not coming off the bench for what? He's a starter. And if they like Garland better, okay, he's a starter. But I looked at the Cleveland Plain Dealer the other day, and they were talking about that it's Cleveland's plan to possibly start Okoro at the 2 guard, which means one of them 2 other guards ain't starting. Okay? And they would want a wing. Now, I'm telling you, I told y'all before, they're going to want Obi. Now, I'm not saying we're going to give up Obi. I'm trying to tell you, though, they're going to want Obi. Now, we could offer Kevin and Frank in a first, maybe 2 first from, not the 2 this year. Maybe 1 of this year's first and 1 in Dallas 2023. Something like that. Okay? That's it. But, again, you put any of those guys, Scary Terry, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Colin Sexton, you put any of them guys, in that backcourt with the team that we already got. And then you add a shooting wing, we rolling, man. We rolling. So let's get off the crack pipe, yo. Let's stop all this. Don't let these people look you straight in the face on TV and act like they know what they talking about. And they high as a kite. They gotta be to talk some of the stuff they talking. They gotta be. Talk about trading RJ. We're looking to build a long-term, listen up, long-term, sustainable winner. You want to be fighting for a championship 1 year and then back to the lottery and you ain't got a draft pick for a couple of years because you done went and got some, you know what I'm saying? If you wanted to go, superstar type point guard route, I say just sign Kyle Lowry. Just sign him. And you only got to put him on the hook for 2 years. Just sign him. Okay, that's fine to me. And then we ain't doing nothing but paying money, and that's only for 2 years. See, that's now you're not losing anything. You're not losing no draft picks. You're not losing no young talent. You're not losing nothing. You're just paying money, and Dolan got plenty of that. So that's what I'm saying. If Donovan Mitchell wants to come here, I don't know how you're going to do it. He just signed a $195 million deal with Utah. What? He going to sign a long-term deal with the organization only to act like a diva and leave? That's not Donovan. To me, that don't seem like Donovan Mitchell. Okay. So, these crackheads out here, man. And you crack babies from past Knicks regimes. Yo, this ain't NBA 2K, yo. We want to be a long-term system. We want to be winning every year. We don't want this to be the first year we win 41 games. We want to be winning 50 games a year. Right? Right. Tell me what y'all think. Have a safe day this Thursday. Shalom.